Our words are literally spells, and that's why it's called spelling, because what we are talking is being spoken into existence. So the more in tune we are with the space that we're in and how it can best serve us, then the better we can live our lives that is in alignment with ourselves.
Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I'm your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the Connection Catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Pua, the sound and energy healer and intuitive guide. Welcome to the show, Pua. How are you doing?
Hi, thank you so much for having me today. I am lovely and I am feeling so happy to be here and just to help share my perspective and have this conversation with you. It's essential. And like I just mentioned, this is what helps us expand our mind and our heart so we can connect on a deeper soul level, which is why we're here. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you for agreeing to be here with me because I'm super excited for this conversation too. And I would love to ask first about your journey because you have not been an intuitive guide always in your life. And I'm just super curious how you got from where you have been, which I'm not going to tell you yet. You guys need to listen to where you're at right now and what has inspired you to shift your path as well, because this is, something that is very different to what you have been doing before. So I'm curious about your story. Please share with us.
Absolutely. So I have quite a bit of a unique story, and it started when I was 6 years old. I was raised by a teen single mom, and we moved to Hawaii when I was about 2 years old, born in NorCal, and she put me into gymnastics when I was about six. So that's when my gymnastics story started. And it was funny because I was doing hula dancing and cheerleading and all sorts of different things until my gymnastics career started to take over and I needed to pick. And I ended up picking gymnastics and followed the journey. I trained and competed in Hawaii when I was little for a couple of years until my mom decided that it was time to expand my career. So I ended up moving to Ohio by myself at the age of 9 to train gymnastics. And I lived by myself for about a month, getting housed by a family I didn't know, training, competing, and I stayed in Ohio for about 6 months after that, which is not a long time. But after those 6 months and training at this gym and realizing that this wasn't a good fit for me, we then moved again to Missouri, where I continued my gymnastics career at this gym called Gage. They had a couple of Olympians and got to train under those coaches, which was a whole different experience. And I think another topic, because my gymnastics career, although has provided me so much perspective and everything, there's also a lot of traumatic events that went on during my career, especially when you're a high level athlete. You're expected to go and have these really grueling training sessions and competitions, and being part of these traumatic environments, it taught me a lot, but also impacted me tremendously. So after Ohio and then moving to Missouri and training at that gym for a couple years, I then moved to Texas by myself for 2 years again when I was 13 and continued to train, continued to compete. I did it without my family, was being housed with another family. So my childhood was very abnormal with the moving and the traveling, living without my parents, plus being raised by a single mom who was a teen as it was. There was a lot of trauma that I was dealing with, though at the time I didn't know I was experiencing it until it came out in my adult life as triggers, and especially in my most intimate relationships. So I ended
Classic.
up living in 2 years by myself, just training. I know, right? I'm sure we all experienced that. So after training in Texas for a couple years, and then just deciding that it was time for me to move back home with my family and figure out what was next in my gymnastics career. Because at that point, I remember I was like, I didn't take any days off. And as long as I was training, I basically was training every day, 40 plus hours a week from the age of 6 till I went to college. So it took a lot of my childhood, it took a lot of my life growing up. But once I made the decision to move back home with my family because I knew that me being in that space was no longer serving me, that was a really big decision. So my mom came to Texas, helped me move back home. And then once I was back home, I was an elite gymnast as well. So the elite level is the Olympic level in which you train with, you can go to national team camps and you're training with all the future Olympians and you're going to the national championships and doing all of that. So when I came back home to Missouri after living in Texas by myself for 2 years, I decided to continue to try to follow my dreams of being an Olympic gymnast. Although I knew at that point it was not likely. But I was still contending with all of the gymnasts in there and knew that whether I made it to the Olympics or not, I could go the college route and this would help set me up for that. So I tried one more year being an elite gymnast. It was the year before Olympic trials, and that was my goal, was just to make it to Olympic trials. And the last meet that I competed in as an elite gymnast, I broke my knee. So, and actually, it was the day before the meet. I was training, getting ready to leave for the competition, and I did a dismount off bars, and I ended up breaking my knee. I got x-rays, I went to the doctors, they told me what had happened, but I knew I had one more meet to try to qualify to this meet. So I did not tell my coaches that I broke my knee. I told them that I was okay, and I made the decision to compete on a broken knee so I could try to qualify to this competition. And I ended up competing, and because I knew too, I know, which is, looking back, I was like, I was a 13-year-old girl who was making these decisions for myself that were truly dangerous. So I'm like, who let me do this? But I
You, your
ended up, I
soul, let
knew
you
that
do this.
I literally me, I know my willpower was like, you got this, just try it out. Because I knew if I were to keep my knee in a certain position, then I could do my routines. So I did, and I locked my knee out, I taped it up. I did my best in the competition, and I missed qualifying by less than 1 point. So after all of that, I
No,
realized I
no,
but
no.
it's such a blessing. I know, and little Pua too was so devastated because I was like, "Look what I just did, and I missed it by less than a point. Can we try to, like, requalify myself?" I don't know. But no, we can't. So that was the biggest wake up call for me, truthfully. My body was screaming at me that it was time to be done and it was time to focus on my college career and my education because at this point, I was homeschooled my whole life. And honestly, I did not really do school. I was training 8 hours a day and did not have the time or energy to put into my homeschooling. So I just didn't do it. And I don't even, looking back, I'm like, how did I even like make it through or how did that even happen? But the schooling system, I'm sure, has changed, but also I think needs a lot of different changes now. But yeah, so I decided to make a really hard decision that I needed to stop being an elite gymnast and I needed to go back to school, get an education before college, and start focusing on how I would be recruited as a college gymnast. So I remember telling my mom, and she was heartbroken and devastated, which again, I just shows me how much pressure and expectations I had on myself at such a young age from my family, from my coaches, from my environment and my community. Everyone sort of looked at me as this gymnast and it became my identity. And not only with that, attached to that was a lot of the other characteristics of being a gymnast that I have been dealing with of perfectionism and the people pleasing and just putting the self aside so I can get the job done, which at the end of the day is not self serving because I'm serving the people around me instead of becoming in tune with myself. So, looking back, it's a lot easier to see these things, which is honoring my past self and everything I went through to help teach me this. It was a journey. But after deciding to tell my mom and that I needed to be done, I needed to go to school, I needed to try to get recruited, I did. And I started the recruiting process. I ended up committing to Arkansas and switched my commitment throughout just because I, after reflecting, I just knew it wasn't a good fit. UCLA was always my dream school, and this is where manifestation comes in because I have screenshots of me posting on Facebook or just having notes when I was 14, 15, 16 of I will be a future Bruin. Going to the track later, I can't wait to be a Bruin because I knew in my heart that this was my path before I was even being recruited. So it's really magical that after I committed to Arkansas my sophomore year of high school, I ended up finding out that UCLA had a spot open up for a vaulter and a floor worker, which is my two best events. So I reached out to the head coach. I think 2 weeks later, I went out to go visit and made sure that this was the right fit. I committed on the spot, had to tell Arkansas that I was no longer going there, and got to live out my dream life. So UCLA was magical. I not only did I have an extremely long, amazing yet traumatic club gymnastics career, I then went to UCLA to my dream school and got to see a whole other side of the sport, both for better and for worse, truthfully. And although it was the best time of my life, it was really, really hard, but I learned a lot. And I'm so grateful that I got to experience it because I became an All American and a national champion at UCLA. And it was a journey. And there's so much I can touch on too within the gymnastics career. But without my resiliency and inner knowing and following that intuitive calling that I wasn't as tapped into as back then because I was so in my mind of performing and being in a high performance athlete. Thankfully, I did still have that connection to self, that connection to source that allowed me to guide myself no matter what it was and how traumatic it may have been, because those lessons have taught me. Now that I have done the healing work and have forgiven and made peace and integrated all of those dark sides, I now can speak on it from this higher consciousness where I can see where it all happened the way that it did. So I know I'm going on, but my gymnastics career has been quite a journey, but I'm so grateful because it's led me to where I am today. And I wouldn't have needed to heal as much if it wasn't for all of the traumatic experiences that I experienced as a gymnast. So I'm grateful, even though it was really hard. But yeah, so I actually ended up getting into real estate.
So like we need to be grateful for it because we always heal through the traumatic stuff, and these events shape who we are, and they shape our mission, and they shape what we want to do with this world. Because if, for example, I'm the connection catalyst because I have
Yes.
abandonment wound, so I had this connection, so now I want connection, so now I'm going to connect people, so that's my mission. I feel like it's always shaping who we are, all these bad quote unquote events. So it's really beautiful, but yeah, I'm curious what happened
Mhm.
next.
Yeah, and speaking of the bad too, it's like I love to look at that from a human perspective because I think as humans, we love to look at things as black and white, or maybe not look at it as from the human perspective, from the higher self perspective, because when we're looking at it from the human perspective, the black and white is the good or bad. But really, that is so subjective because those bad moments led to something so beautiful. So, just something I wanted to touch on where it's like every time something bad happens to me, I always allow that to be an opportunity to say, oh, well, what is this teaching me? How can I grow from this? And honoring all of the impact that it does have on me because as a child, I didn't allow myself to do that. Where now as an adult, I'm like, this hurts. I'm going to sit in this for a little bit and then I'm going to work through this and then I'm going to release it and then I'm going to redirect the awareness. So that has been key in teaching me everything that I've been going through. But after or even during my UCLA career, my junior year, I one of my teammates, Sam Pezic, she posted on her Instagram. She probably doesn't even remember posting this, but she said, "Find your small happiness and make that your career." So I was like, okay, I really like homes. Ever since I was little, I've always loved home. And then I found this brokerage called Compass. Their mission statement was helping people find their place in the world. And I was like, I want to do that. So junior year, again, just the universe always aligning me where I'm needing to be. One of my best friends and teammates on the team, her dad had a realtor that was looking for an intern. So I was like, perfect. I interviewed, I got the job on the spot. I was able to intern for her all summer and was like, great, this is what I'm about to do. So I finished my senior year, worked on getting my real estate license while also becoming an All American and a national champion and finishing up my last year of college, graduated, went right into real estate, and realized that it was an extension of all the trauma I was experiencing as a gymnast. So, tons of triggers and wounds were still very present. And I was to the point where, like, my health, my mental, my emotional was deteriorating. I was so depleted and so drained and just in a really bad place that it was so in my face. I had no other option but to deal with it. Boundaries were a huge issue, people pleasing, and not taking care of myself were all current themes that I was dealing with. So I started to do the healing work and I started to go internal and I started to figure out what was best for me. And fortunately, unfortunately, the pandemic happened and it really allowed me the time and space to reevaluate what I needed to do with my life. And I knew from the beginning, I was always very spiritual and very in tune and always looked at things so differently and knew that my purpose was so much greater than what I was doing. Although I was accomplishing these big things and had all these titles, and on paper, it seemed like I was successful and not that I wasn't, but internally, I did not feel fulfilled. I knew I was making other people around me happy, but I myself was not. So I just started to connect to my higher self. I started to connect to my spirit guides and the universe and source energy. And I started to ask for questions and for guidance, and they answered. The answers were so loud too. And I was reviewing my notes yesterday of just because I will write down sometimes when I have just weird coincidences and synchronicities and downloads, and I want to remember them. So I was writing down of when I asked, doing a meditation, and I asked my guides just to please guide me. Please show me what is next. How can I be of service? And it's funny to me because like TikTok is such a funny thing, but sometimes I'm like, they use that to connect through me, or whether it's TikTok or the radio or my playlist on shuffle or a random conversation on the TV or while I'm outside walking. This was all happening, and all the videos that were coming up, it was like sound healing, sound healing, sound healing, energy work, meditation. So I was like, okay, got it. So I decided just to take a leap. I became Reiki certified and saw where that led me. And I knew, and again, just becoming so in tune, I knew that this was the best thing for me because I could feel it from a higher self perspective, that this is where I was supposed to be. And that everything that I went through led me to this point, because without that, I would not have been able to sustain this new version of myself and this new environment that I have created since the beginning. Since I've been manifesting coming to UCLA and making it out to California and supporting myself out here. So it's been a journey, but looking back, just so grateful that I got to go through what I did, as painful and hard and traumatic as it was, because it taught me so much that I can now share and give back to the world around me. So,
That's so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing this story. I'm just like so in it, and I'm like, wow, this is so, so cool. And first question that actually came to my mind, just like a mindset question in a way, or emotional question in a way, like, what do
yeah,
you feel was shifting within you because you started being on your own in such a young age? So, what kind of impact do you feel like it had on
yeah.
your life that you had to sustain yourself so like early, right, by yourself?
Yeah, yeah. So again, I think that's like where the soul comes in and connecting to the soul. Like, not to sound conceited, but it's like, I love me. I can't believe what I've been through and what I have fought through and what I have overcome to get here, because in my soul, that is what I am about. And I feel like I've lived many lives that can help, that has intuitively brought me this wisdom and this resilience and this willpower that I'm able to get through what I went through. But there are lots of checkpoints too that I intuitively created from my childhood. Moments where I would be so intentionally present and connected to the higher self that I was able to receive guidance in those messages. So even now, from this version of myself, I'll do my meditations, the shadow work, and the inner child work of going back and memorizing or just resurfacing the moments that I was in those present states, because I use those as checkpoints to send messages to that past version of myself. And because I'm able to, I don't want to say jump timelines like that, but just to connect back to the inner child, I'm able to heal things even more so along the way. Where now, as this present self, it's like because I'm putting in the past work, my current self is reaping those benefits.
Absolutely. I'm
Yeah,
all
that
about
doesn't,
shadow work. I also do shadow work for work. So, absolutely. I'm with you on inner child trauma healing. But yeah,
yeah,
it's really, really interesting story. I'm really, really grateful you shared. And so, you came to become a
thank
Reiki healer
you.
and also a sound healer. And so, I am really curious about the sound
Yeah,
healing because I know that you work with crystal balls. And the other day on the podcast, just briefly, someone
Yeah.
mentioned, yeah, crystal balls are awesome. They have consciousness. They are here to serve us and help the planet and so on. So I want to ask you, like, how does it work that they can heal us so much? Like, is it the combination of the energy of the crystal and the wavelength of the music that it creates that moves some energy within us? Or how does it work for someone who has never maybe had a sound healing
Yeah,
before?
exactly. So that's exactly what it does is the bowls are attuned to a certain frequency, whether it's 432 or 528, and it's just a healing frequency that influences our body's natural vibration. We are all energetic beings vibrating at a certain frequency at the atomic level. So when our body is influenced by outside frequencies, it changes our own inner vibration. And that's why I love the singing bowls because not only are mine attuned to each chakra center, but they're attuned to the 528 frequency, which just helps heal the body on an energetic level. So you can feel it internally, intuitively, and physically as these sound vibrations are influencing the body's natural vibration. So it's such a beautiful thing to be a part of because not only are the bowls releasing this magical frequency, but the sound healer itself is the channel. So as I'm playing my sound bowls, I'm channeling the entire time healing energy, guidance, messages, and just good vibrations because our hands are an extension of our heart space. So as I'm using my mallets and connecting with these bowls, this energy is flowing through me out into my hands, into the bowls, and can becoming part of the frequency. And that's why each sound bath is so unique because it's dependent on the healer, their state, and how they channel and what energy that they're able to receive. So, because of the energy that I use for my sound bath, and I again that became too part of the channeling and the meditation work. I actually ended up I do a lot of meditation and talk a lot with the higher self and started to ask just more ways, how can I be of service? Please send me ways. And I received this symbol that my higher self told me to use during my healing sessions and just when I needed it. And I was like, okay, like, what's it called? And I got a couple different things. And it's weird when I channel, I receive a lot of things and I kind of have to piece it together. And the one thing I got was Nahoku. So I Googled it and I was like, what is this? And it means star in Hawaiian. So I realized that I received this new, and maybe it's not new, maybe other people have received the symbol as well. I don't know yet, but I know I've received it myself. So this called Nahoku healing that I can use for my sound baths and for energy work. And I've been doing it with my private clients and for all of my healing sessions. And it's magical, and I'm still channeling more information about it and learning about it, and also believe down the road, many years from now probably, I'll teach other people how to do this, but for now, I'm still exploring it myself and grateful that I get to use it as part of my sound baths and to help raise consciousness and to help others heal because that's why I'm here, and that's why I've been through what I've been through so I can now share all of this.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Wow. I actually have never thought that, like, I mean, I kind of know it, but I've never really put much thought into how much the energy of someone doing the sound healing will affect the whole sound in the room. Because, like, yeah, as you say, we pass the energy through our
Yes.
hands. So if we are connected to the divine and we channel the divine energy, it can affect everyone in the room because it's like, this bowl is full of this energy. So it's not only crystal, it's not only the hertz of the music itself, like the sound, but also the energy of the healer. So that's really cool that you mentioned it. I really really enjoy this. And yeah, I'm a musician as well. I've
Thank
spent like
you.
10 years in music school, so I love music. I love all the sound healings, and everything with
Mm.
sound is like my cup of tea. I just love it so much. So I'm just really excited
Mhm.
about these topics because it's like crazy how music can change us,
Yeah.
how it can change our state of mind, how it can put us in a different emotion, a different state of mind. It's a frequency. And I had once a psychedelic experience in which I literally saw music like as a shape and color, and I was just like, whoa, it actually is like energy in terms of like it
This
actually
is
has, because I
real.
was
Yeah.
yeah, this is like so real. And I was listening to a song, and then the verse was different color and different shape, and then the chorus was different color and different shape, and I was like, wow, this is so crazy. But it was, I knew that it's real, and I knew that it can affect me, and I understood on
Yeah.
an even deeper level that literally, like, if I put my earphones in, there is an energy just bombarding me and putting my brain in a specific frequency, so it can affect me massively. So that's why also I feel like we need to be careful with the music we listen to, because some of the, for example, heavy metal, or like some of the dark rap music, as I call it, like very, heavy rap in a way,
Yes.
and the energy of this is actually so
Yes.
low and it's just so like putting us down. So we need to be really
Yes.
conscious about the music that we are listening to. I just
Disharmonic.
wanted to mention yeah, it can put our body in just like very,
Yeah.
yeah,
No.
bad state of mind. So we need to be really aware of what we are listening to. I just wanted to
Yeah,
bring
no, and
bring it up quickly.
yeah, I'm happy you brought that up because that is a point that I wanted to mention too, is we don't even realize how much we are being influenced on energetic, emotional, mental, physical levels from everyday things, including the music that we listen to. And I've started to become much more conscious as well as I have tapped into my own healing frequency and the sound bowls and learning about all the ways that the frequencies can affect our internal state. And how crazy it is that so many people are just walking around listening to all these different frequencies and they have no idea how it's affecting them, although they can feel it. And I know that they can because it influences them and it has an impact. So that's why it's like one of our biggest goals. I'm friends, one of my best friends, she's managing this artist who's just incredible. Her name's Kyan Cruz and the manager is Juliana Pino. And we can't wait until we're on tour because this was happened after the Travis Scott and how tragic that accident was at one of his concerts. And we were like, why are people inciting riots? Like, why? We have the opportunity and the me or will to help incite peace and love and raising consciousness. So we're like, when we make it and she's on tour, global tour, like we're gonna open with a sound bath. We need to get everyone at that frequency, and we need to show what we have to offer because this matters, and we need to show the differences between this versus that. And not to say that any is right or wrong, because again, it's all human construct and all purposeful to help raise consciousness. Would love to believe, but I think to have that impact and to also give back because we know how influential music can be is everything. So thank you for
Mhm.
bringing up that point because music plays such a role in our mood and in our state, and people don't even
Mhm.
realize it.
Absolutely. And it's
Yeah.
also, I think, one of the best meditation practices if you can actually make some music, if you can play some music, because then you're so present and you just do it for the sake of doing it, not for this to end. And you just really, really, even Alan Watts mentions it. I think it's a kind of like a meditation for us, right? Because we are so present. We don't just wait for the song to be done. Because he says, like, in this case, the fastest musicians would be the best if this was the case, but it's not, because we just want to be in the experience, right? Or for some people it could be dancing or
Yeah.
something else. But yeah, it's just really, really beautiful. And so I'm curious, because you said that you're channeling the energy when you're doing your sound bath. So for example, I know that you do manifestation sound baths and other type of sound baths too. So how do these messages come to you? Do you attune to everyone's frequency, everyone's energy who is in the room, and then you like channel some, for example, affirmations or just some energies? Or how does it work for you? Because I'm really curious how these messages come to you.
Yeah. So I'll connect to the collective consciousness before my sound baths, and I'll receive guidance through that way because what is meant to happen will happen. So I'm able to tap into that before because time also doesn't exist. So it's just getting into that state that allows me to connect. And once I'm able to connect, I'll just touch the higher selves of everyone else who's coming and let them know that we're going to be doing this. Ask kindly for assistance and for them to help with the healing process and to send me messages that I need for the meditation that I'm going to do. Because while I do a sound bath, I like to lead a guided meditation just to help people, just to help guide the experience even more, especially when it's a manifestation sound bath. So I start with the channeling and receiving the information days before. And then as I'm there, again, I use the symbol and open up the space, create the container. And once everyone is at the sound bath and I'm playing and we're present, I'll then again tap into everyone's higher self and the guides, and I'll ask them to come with us here, even though most of them are already there. But intentionally setting that intention, letting them know that they're welcome and wanted. So I'll start to receive messages and just make that part of the sound bath process of leading the guided meditation and allowing them to get to that state with the help of their soul family as well. But using my own energy too, it's all just very intuitive, and allow myself to flow with the process. And it really is just so magical that I get to experience this and be of service in this way and to help provide people this ability, because we are all manifesting whether we know it or not. Our words are literally spells, and that's why it's called spelling, because what we are talking is being spoken into existence. So the more in tune we are with the space that we're in and how it can best serve us, then the better we can live our lives that is in alignment with ourselves. But it all just comes from consistent practice of doing the work, meditating if that works for you, going to sound baths if that works for you, doing the breath work, journaling, yoga, taking a walk outside and connecting with nature. There's so many different things that you can do to connect with yourself so you can find that clarity to what you want to manifest. Because as I said, like, we're doing it either way, so we might as well be intentional about it. And that's why I like doing it during the sound baths, because I can lead a guided meditation to help people get to that state and manifest what they need, while also breaking down some barriers and some blockages along the way. I think manifestation has become such a trendy mainstream thing nowadays that not everyone, is realizing the shadows that may be attached along with that. So we can manifest, let's say, like our dream man, but have we done the healing work for our relational trauma? Because if we haven't, we're going to manifest our dream man with all of those shadows attached, and it's going to be one of the most traumatic relationships of our life. So I think it's important to know that manifestation, again, human construct, is not just good. There is a dark side to manifesting as well, and it takes you integrating your shadow self so you know how to handle it and how to manifest in a healthy, prosperous way. And it's just, it all comes from intention and knowing where your state is at and the shadows that you're carrying with you, because we all have them, and learning how to integrate those shadows too.
Because you manifest based on your shadows and your light that you have within. So if there is an energy of a shadow within you, the law of attraction will bring you the mirror. So the mirror will be someone who will trigger this shit in you. But then I think it's actually really
Yeah.
great, because even if we manifest from the subconscious mind, if we manifest one second, third person like this, maybe at some point we're gonna learn the lesson, we're gonna go through all the emotions that we need to go through, and then the next time we're gonna manifest someone more aligned, and maybe this is gonna be the right person already, or maybe we just need to go through one more traumatic event with letting go of this person so that then we can manifest. I feel like
Yeah.
we are always upgrading. So even if we manifest from the shadow
Yes.
place, we still are manifesting for our own good so that we can see these shadows even better and then
Yes.
manifest something even more
Yes.
aligned with our true self. So I feel like even this quote unquote dark
Yes.
manifestation, I mean, manifestation based on shadows is
Right.
really, really
Human
serving us because
construct.
yeah, exactly. Because it's really, really nice to be able to heal and
Yes.
to have someone to actually trigger the shit out of you so that you can even see what's there.
Yeah, and like you said, hold up a mirror. Our most intimate relationships are the one that holds up those mirrors for us to see all the sides of us that we haven't quite accepted yet and come to terms with yet, which is such a hard yet beautiful thing, because it's another opportunity for us to grow and to evolve and to step into the person that we came here to be. And I think it does take time though. This isn't something that can happen just like that. And it's a shift of perspective. And that's why it's like I love a quantum jump, but at the same time, a little unrealistic, because if you were just to shift perspective like that, that's not sustainable. It's the work that you put in to get yourself here that helps sustain, like I said earlier, this new version of yourself in the environment that's around you. So it all just takes, I think, this that connection and that inner level of knowing that you have these shadows to integrate and to take with you, but for the better,
Yeah.
because they're here to teach us and to help us evolve.
And it's all
Even though it
about the
may take
journey
lifetimes
anyway.
for some people. I know. Exactly, yeah, and how you can make that, and that's where the healing work comes in because you learn how to give yourself grace, and you learn how to forgive yourself and how to be patient and how to laugh and bring out the inner child in those moments and to bring some light and some happiness and some fun to those really dark times because it all exists. But it's all about how
Hmm.
you respond to it, and once you have done the healing work and have found the tools and resources that you can use that helps get you through those moments, then that's everything. And I feel like life will always be up and down, but when you start to do the work, it's like up, down, up, up more, and then a little bit of down. And we're still going to have those down points, but those down points are so much more serving because we have that awareness around our low points. And we know that this is for the greater good. And this is for our evolution process and our healing journey. And this is all just part of the ride. And this is another low point, but a high point is coming up next. And same with the high points. It's just about the flow and riding the waves and enjoying the process because we're going to
Hmm.
be going through it either way.
Yep,
Might as well find
absolutely.
things to enjoy about
There is
it.
no escape. Yeah, we might as well accept it if we're already on this roller coaster.
No, literally, we've already put in some work. We're already here. It's time to just full force, dig deep, and keep going. But also taking
Absolutely.
time when you need, because time doesn't even exist. So do what you have to do and take as much time as you need to do this. But then also, that's the choice on your end is how long are you able to put up with this low point,
Hmm.
these traumatic experiences, these patterns, these habitual ways of thinking and limiting beliefs and inner blockages. They'll come
Hmm.
out, and that is what will break you free is once you're able to step through all of those blockages, limiting beliefs, and habitual patterns that are no longer serving.
Mm,
But it takes
amazing.
consistent work for sure. I always tell people, yeah, 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 that this is I consider the inner body as the same as a home space. Just as you are cleaning and taking out the trash and getting rid of things you don't need, that's the same thing we have to do with our mind and our body and our emotions because the emotions live in our cells. And that's why I love sound healing because it influences us on an energetic level where our body is holding those emotions that we weren't able to work through at that time and are still affecting us and coming out as
Mm,
triggers and as dark thoughts that were put onto us in that past version of ourselves. So,
mhm. Yeah, and that
yeah,
that
I
brings me to
know.
this topic of cleaning. That brings me to the aura cleanse because I know that one of the things that you do is aura cleanse, and I'm curious to know the way that you do it, and also all the other ways because there's a lot of ways to cleanse your aura. So I'm curious to know what is the way that you do
Yeah.
it, and what kind of other tips you have for the aura cleanse, and why is it even important to do this, maybe as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, our aura is everything. It extends 5 to 20 feet away from us. And just as we're walking on the street and being able to connect with other people and being able to read energy, because you can be, or let's say we're in a room reviving, someone walks into the room who has a different frequency and the entire frequency of the room changes. That is everyone's auras interacting before we're even able to on a physical level. That is on an energetic, spiritual level. And if we're not taking care of all the things that become attached to our aura, so as we're walking down the street or connecting with other human beings or in a really crowded space, our aura is picking up on those subtle energies and they'll stick to us. So I noticed that when we are, let's say, in a low vibrational state and we're angry or we're sad, and we're starting to have all of these intrusive thoughts that aren't really ours, and you're kind of wondering, where did this come from? Because this is a really wild thought right now. And a lot of the time, although it is probably part our shadow self and the past versions that were traumatized, but also other influences of other people's energies being attached to us and coming out at those low points and heightening those emotions. So that's why when we have a lot of those intrusive thoughts, they may not be ours to even hold on to. And that's when you're like, okay, I got some stuff to release. So the aura is so powerful because if we don't take care of it, you will feel dense and so heavy and so weighed down and so clouded and just not clear. And the way I do my aura cleansings is I use that symbol and I'll work through the aura, I'll use the chakras and start cleansing their aura in their home space or just the space that around them, wherever we're doing it at. And also loving using smudge as a tool. I think smudge is incredible. I love sage and Palo Santo. Those are my two favorite. Depending on the need, to me, sage is cleansing all the energies, both negative and positive, and then Palo Santo is cleansing just the negative energies. So I use intuitive guidance for that too, whether or not they have a lot of dense energies that are not part of them that needs to be released, or they have a lot of good energies too that may not be part of them but are still helping them. So it depends on each session on what I'm feeling called to use. But sage is a big tool that I use, plus the energy healing and guiding through the space, because we can cleanse our own aura, and this will take practice, but visualizing white light, just pretending that there's a bubble surrounding us and that this bubble is cleansing and clearing our aura. And a lot of the time, too, especially I think a lot of empaths can relate to this, is when we are in crowded rooms, we start to really absorb the energies of all of those around us. And for me, I realized that visualizing a rose gold bubble that is surrounding me really helps create a barrier so I can keep my energy intact, I can protect my peace, and I can also just observe instead of absorb. So that's something that I found really helpful, is using and visualizing the light, because the light will help cleanse and clear and our mind gets to do all of the work, and we can be anywhere, anytime in a meeting and just sitting there in silence, just visualizing this light if you're feeling heavy. So I love to use that as a tool. And another thing I do personally, I obviously don't do this during my sessions, but I shower. I think a shower is a beautiful way just to really cleanse the body on a physical level, because the water is part of one of the elements of the earth, and using the elements is great. So I think a shower either in the morning or at night or just whenever feeling called is a great way to also cleanse the aura and the self from other people's energy and just the day in general, and just washing it all off and using the light and visualizing. And I know there's shower meditations out there on YouTube, or I'm sure tons of other places, but maybe experimenting with that and seeing how different you feel after versus when you first started that shower meditation, or even just the visualizing the light or using the smudge and the smoke, and using your mind to help cleanse and clear all that's no longer serving you, because intuitively you can feel that it's there. So just then taking action and doing the steps necessary to get rid of it consistently, though, because it's like each new day we're interacting and we're doing different things. So it's a consistent practice that you have to stay on top of.
Hmm. It's like a spiritual
Yeah,
hygiene, you might say. It's like you brush your teeth, you
exactly.
take a
Yeah.
shower, you protect your aura. It's like, okay, I need to cleanse my aura now.
Yes.
I need to calm my aura. I feel like I apart from what you mentioned, I like all these methods and I use them too. But I also sometimes do calming, just using my hands as a comb. Is it like you say it in English? Comb. I think it's comb, right? Where you just
Yeah.
like brush
Yeah.
the negative energies off you. And also, I sometimes do peeling
Yes.
with Himalayan
Absolutely.
salt. I think that shower and peeling with
Yes.
Himalayan salt really helps as well to just take all this negativity off you, especially if you had like a hardcore influence of energy. But yeah, I use these methods. But I'm curious to know, when you put this bubble of energy, let's say like the golden light, right? Then is it like consistently there? You feel how, or let's say, how long do you feel the effects? Do you have to repeat it after some time because the visualization power or charge is going to be less over time? Or is it just okay, one intention, and then if I'm in the room even for hours with people, then it's just gonna stay there and protect me for the whole time? How does it feel for you?
To me, that's intuitive, and it's dependent on each state, each situation. So I think the intention around it is everything. I think if you know that you're going to be at an event for multiple hours and it's setting that intention, that rose gold bubble, locking it in for hours, and even asking for assistance. I think that asking for divine assistance is so powerful when you connect to your higher self and your spirit guides and your ancestors and your angels, and you're just like, hey, I need some extra assistance right now. Can you please help protect me and keep my aura safe? And they will. And if you're an hour into the event and you realize, like, dang, I'm kind of feeling like disconnected and a little clouded and scattered, then maybe just take a quick second just to connect back in and to ask
Mhm.
for more guidance and to visualize that light again. So it's so intuitive to each person that It's dependent on their state and how they're feeling. But once you're able to connect back to the self, you're able to find those answers for yourself because you'll know, like, dang, I'm not feeling as I was when I first started. I need to take a second and reevaluate, reassess, and then go from there. So
Mm-hmm,
I
mm-hmm.
do believe it's possible to lock it in for however much time you need. But as the mind starts to go to different places, the disconnection will start to disconnect. So that's why just continuously reconnecting back to self so you know what you need. And I think you can, like, for me, I have a crystal bracelet. So when I touch it, I'm like, it just reminds me. I'm starting to reprogram my brain to remind me to do a quick body scan. Do I need some water? Do I have to go to the bathroom? What do I need right now to make sure I can be my best self? Do I need to do a quick meditation? Am I feeling heavy? Do I need to release some energy? So just recreating that relationship with yourself is everything because then you'll start to be your own guide and you'll be able to connect back to that intuitive guidance that does it so naturally for you. So, yeah, so many different tools that you can use to remind yourself, yeah, just to find that connection, which is everything. And then surrounding yourself by conscious beings too is just that extra level of love and evolution and raising consciousness because as I put in this work, I'm starting to attract a lot of different people, all for the better. Where I'm like, oh, like you are a reflection and extension of me. I love you because you are amazing. And I now see that because I see that in me. So thank you for being here. And those conscious beings too are able to help bring you out of those spaces or hold space when you are in that space. And sometimes it's just that support and that love from afar or near that really helps you get out of those states and show you that you don't have to do this alone, that you can have support in a community while doing this, and you can have friends and loved ones that are able to guide you when you're not able to guide yourself too. And although this is very an intuitive process and should all be coming from the internal state, when you put in some of that work and can trust those external connections, then they're there to help.
Speaking of which, if someone would like to connect with you, then how do they do it?
So through my website, I have a website, soulmanahealing.com, and Instagram, I get a lot of DMs of people just wanting to have sessions and to connect with me and just get some intuitive guidance on their own healing journey and how they can start the healing journey. I think what I'm attracting right now is a lot of people who are spiritual but need some guidance and some just a direction of how to take this healing journey. So I love to be that resource for them, just to offer one my services and to be of service and just to have a conversation with them on ways that they can start to evolve and expand the practices that they've already been putting in place. So yeah, just my Instagram at Pua's World. Yeah,
Pua's
absolutely.
World, yes. I remember your Insta, Pua's
Yes.
World. Perfect. I really
Yeah.
set an intention that a lot of guys will check your Instagram out because it's really nice. I checked it out for sure as well before we started. I was like, oh my god, I love this girl's energy. It's so cool. So yeah, check it out, guys. And thank you so much, Pua, for sharing your energy and your time with us because it's been a great conversation. I'm super grateful that you agreed to come on this podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. And I always love to have these conversations because, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is how we expand our perspective, our mind, and our heart and create these conscious connections, which is why we're here. So, thank you for creating the space for other healers and beautiful people of magical beings that get to talk and experience this magic that you are creating yourself. And it's truly is such an honor to be a part of. Thank you.
Oh, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank
It's my
you.
pleasure. Trust me, it's my pleasure. I love this stuff. Thank you for listening to us. It became a little bit dark in here, but I'm super grateful that you're with us. And I am the Connection Catalyst on Instagram if you'd like to connect with me, or if you'd like to see SoulFam, SoulFam's content on Instagram. It's We Are SoulFam. And yeah, sending you so much love and gratitude for tuning in and stay tuned to the next episode.